8 years ago, in a small bucolic town in Connecticut, shots rang out.
The tragic details of December 14, 2012, impossible to forget. And 8 years later, neighbors around the state still trying to make sense of the senseless.
Those little boys and girls would be starting high school this year. Those parents, those young women, those educators inside of those classrooms would have had 8 fantastic years of personal growth, time with friends, maybe marriages, maybe children of their own.
Senator Chris Murphy and other state leaders like Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysiewicz sharing their grief during a vigil hosted by Connecticut Against Gun Violence.
Today, we think back to a very, very tragic day in our country's history. And in the hours and the days and the months that followed that horrible day, we saw an unprecedented outpouring of kindness and hope from millions of people.
Monday's vigil also remembering all victims of gun violence in Connecticut. Janet Rice with Connecticut Against Gun Violence sharing the story of her son Shane, who died at the hands of gun violence in 2012 before the Sandy Hook tragedy.
Too often in our Black and brown communities, moms like myself have to hear those words from trauma doctors. I'm sorry. We did all we could. Together, we need to take a stand and do all we can to stop this vicious cycle.
State leaders, including Senator Richard Blumenthal, also calling for action during President-elect Joe Biden's time in the White House.
Under this administration, with a president who has committed himself throughout his lifetime to fighting gun violence, we can adopt those common sense measures that very simply keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people.
8 years later, and that plea is still the same. And today, a renewed hope that change is coming. Reporting in Hartford, Angelo Bavaro, Fox 61 News.